Sadistic cruelty, unabashed vulgarity, distinct lack of bathing. These were the ingredients necessary to create the perfectly likable, unlikable villain. Fire Emblem Awakening accidentally added a posthumous ingredient. Paralog 18. Wow. And thus, the Mad King Gangrel was born, destined to be one of Awakening's best characters. Note, Gangrel is only one of the best characters if you take the events of Paralog 18 and pretend that they never existed. Also, all support conversations and DLC conversations also don't exist. Also, if you don't smell him. There's a certain appeal to the unappealing. Characters who unabashedly live a deranged and vile life to the detriment of everyone around them. The kind of characters who, if they were real, would deserve to get their shit kicked in. But in fiction, they're just an absolute delight. Their sick nature can possess its own kind of charm, and one of Fire Emblem's finest at that task is Gangrel from Fire Emblem Awakening. The Mad King of Plagia more than earns his title, and today, I'm gonna look at how he earns his crown, and how he kinda fumbles it at the exact same time. Despite Gangrel being the main villain of Awakening's first arc, he doesn't actually show up until about halfway through it on Chapter 5. Yeah, it turns out when zombies are emerging from the ground all over the world, they take a bit of precedence over the evil king a country over, but he wastes no time stealing the show once he's there. He's taken an Elysian noblewoman named Maribel hostage, saying that he intends to kill her for the crime of illegally crossing the border and injuring Plagian soldiers. She retorts that his men were the ones who burned a village in Elise, and she was merely going after them because of their crimes. And of course, Gangrel denies these claims and plays innocent. He offers to exchange her life for the Fire Emblem, because it's a magical item that's said to grant the wishes of he who holds it, and he has some wishes of some very dubious natures. It's at this point I have to show his lines verbatim to get across his appeal, because Gangrel is one of those characters that is more in how they say what they say, rather than what they say. That would only prove Elise has a bandit problem, something I hear oft of late. But indeed, tonight I shall weep salty tears into my pillow for your dead villagers. The Fire Emblem is the key to having all one's wishes realized. I have desired it for years. Years! Yet, my birthday comes and goes each year, and nothing from Elise. Besides, what does it matter? They're armed like beggars compared to us. I could break their ranks as easily as I break wind. From all of his interactions, he comes off like a rotten child. He's vulgar, he's crass, and to me, he's consistently funny. His air of immaturity really makes him stand out among FE's line of main villains. You wouldn't hear Zephiel or Arvis make a fart joke, that's for damn sure. This aspect makes him consistently entertaining. His humor may be lowbrow, but hearing his jokes and the more mature heroes bounce off of them remains fun throughout his scenes. He's just rotten and vile to the core. He shows little care for decency or even for human life, and he revels in how unpleasant he is, and I think that works greatly to his benefit. Villains like Edelgard or Arvis engage in grey morality, villains like Leon or Zephiel garner sympathy, and Gangrel makes your mom jokes. A perfect balance in the universe. That's not to say Gangrel has no motive or goal, mind you. His goal is a complete genocide of all of the Elysian people. His motive is actually just about the only thing in him grounded with reality. The previous king of Elise, Chrom's dad, was a bloodthirsty tyrant who massacred Plagians, guilty and innocent alike. Gangrel is acting in retribution to that. He killed a bunch of Plagians, so Gangrel will kill a bunch of Elysians. A fair trade, at least in his eyes. What I like about this motive is it's a reason, not an excuse. It explains why he's a dick, but at no point in the story is it used to garner sympathy for him. Gangrel is a spiteful little man who wishes to spread misery wherever he goes, and the game acknowledges that and makes it clear it doesn't matter why he is like he is, just that he needs to be stopped. Too many times despicable, irredeemable characters are given a chance at redemption they don't deserve, and it's refreshing to see a character with a motive like this be told to shut the fuck up and die. His next appearance is in Chapter 9, where he plans to use Chrom's sister Emerin as a bargaining chip to get the Fire Emblem. The chapter is fairly infamous, so I shouldn't need to say what happens, but Gangrel's plan fails because Emerin decides to pull a Kurt Cobain tribute, leaving Gangrel with no Fire Emblem. What's relevant to Gangrel is just how sadistic he's being during this. Emerin's death is sad as hell, and the entire time Gangrel is just living it up and continuing to crack jokes about the whole ordeal. Gangrel was already a well-established piece of shit, but this scene propels him into downright despicable. It brings the enemy to the lowest point. Which is why, on the very next map, it's where they remind you that Plagia is just as human as Elise is. Not Gangrel himself, mind you, but the people under him. Mustafa and the rest of the Plagian Knights have had about enough of Gangrel and start defecting en masse after Emerin. And that's how Gangrel plays into the overall theme of the game. More so than any other Fire Emblem, Awakening is about the power of friendship, and how it can overcome just about anything. Gangrel rules only with fear and violence, and even if such a rule temporarily grants him an advantage, it will always be his undoing, as it is not a rule built to last. It might be naive of Awakening, but through Gangrel, the game tells a clear message that sticking to the path of kindness and love will reward you in the end if you don't give in to hatred. Gangrel's kingdom starts to unravel beneath his feet. The people he's feared into submission are beginning to defect and rebel, and at the end of the day, it's because he's a dick who has no one to really love him. It's at this point I want to amend something I said earlier. I said that at no point does the player feel sorry for Gangrel, and I think that's a little wrong. I do feel something for him. Pity. Gangrel is a pathetic, spoiled child who acted like the entire world was around his finger, and then he's left with absolutely no one to hold him. His dying words are a curse to the world, that every man is destined to live and die alone, for no one ever truly loves anyone. But that's just Gangrel because of his own poor choices. His death is meant to juxtapose Chrom's life. Chrom is a kind man, and thus he lives happily with his loved ones, his wife and daughter, all in all a fulfilling life of happiness. Gangrel spread fear and disgust, and in the end he just ends up dead in a ditch. A miserable end to a miserable life, and ultimately it's what he deserved. Unfortunately, Gangrel suffers greatly from a lack of screen time. He really only shows up sparingly in 3 of the game's chapters due to the structure of Awakening's story. Awakening basically has 3 stories: Gangrel's arc, Walhart's arc, and Grima's arc, and I really wish the game picked one and focused on it more. I would have loved to see Gangrel chew the scenery as a villain more. Let him have more scenes of being abhorrent garbage. Let him steal the show. As it stands, I do like him, but I can't really place him as one of my favorite villains when there's just so little to him. But I guess that is part of his draw. If my biggest complaint about Gangrel is I wish there was more Gangrel, I think that says more about the quality of Gangrel than anything this analysis could do. To close off, I just want to say, and this is with pure love and affection, fuck you, Gangrel, you gross, vile, beautiful piece of shit. Okay, so I can't really end the video now. A lot of you probably already know there's a major point I haven't talked about yet. The FE MS Paint Patreon! That's right, I have a Patreon, where for as little as $3 a month, you can help pitch in and get benefits, like panel previews for videos, and getting shoutouts on videos as well. And if you want to dish out the big bucks of $7 a month, you can get access to polls that decide the future characters that I'll be covering. Right now, it's kind of just a hodgepodge of people I threw together. Inez has the early lead, but I've seen those dwindle away before. My patrons include the likes of Adebayo Thompson, Andrew Crockett, Benz Again, Dr. McBackstab, Etz Elizabeth, Fire Emblem Lord, Follow Pen to the North Star on Twitch, Great Riek, Hell on Heelys, Despacito 2, Keithan, Lightning Bolt, Nevrix the Tourmaline Project Creator, Ranger Man Sam, Ryan Walter, Shen Lu, Space1255, Steph D, Tato, Your Girl Olwyn, Anti-Ginger, Brentendo11, Drew Hack, Goo Goo Gaga Cornelia Melkers 92, Kazu Foxfire, Max the Knife, and upscale furry trash. Thank you guys very much for your support, and let's get to the next part. Okay, we have to talk about the Paralogs. I know, I just really didn't want to. See, Awakening has special chapters that open up just before the end of the game that let you recruit a bunch of units that died during the main game, and also Priam. These chapters pretty much undo most of Awakening's best story beats. Gangrel slain like the piece of garbage that he is? Nah, he's okay, and he's fighting for you. Emmeren's suicide being a major event that changed the scope of the entire world even a year after her death? She's fine. The only one I can think of that's even a halfway cool idea is how they bring back Yanfei. The problem is that it's Yanfei, and no one gives a shit about Yanfei. Gangrel's revival is really weird, because the writing somehow has the perfect understanding of what made him work, while also having no idea what made him work. He's alive because really no reason. He just is suddenly a pirate despite dying in a completely landlocked location, and he joins after Crom pesters him. His recruitment just kinda happens. The most noteworthy thing about it is that you talk to him 3 times, and all the while he's actively trying to kill himself against you. That's a kinda neat recruitment, even if it's ripped from Katarina, but with that aside, I want to talk about how he's written in his supports and DLC conversations. Because on the one hand, his ending is perfect. He doesn't get a happy resolution, he just ends up dead in a ditch somewhere, and historians don't even care to figure out where and when. And his conversations with Aversa are delightfully petty. It reads like 2 bitter exes spitting more venom at each other than even a muck is capable of doing. Ha! You bathe? I hardly noticed. Try not to freeze the water solid with that glacial charm of yours. No one wants to soak in cold springs. You should talk. They'll have to drain the springs after a toad like you upsets the mineral balance. I hope you drown. I don't care what you do, as long as I get to keep denigrating you. We'll see who denigrates who! I've got enough insults to last another lifetime. And who better to take out all this pent-up anger on than you? Shall we make it a contest, then? Your mother was a contest! But on the other hand, his supports with Robin try to make him sympathetic for some reason, and it just does not work. Gangrel is now given a new motive, that his iron-fisted rule was to gain the power to defeat Walhart and Valm, which is just a stupid idea. First of all, in lore, that makes no sense. Walhart was conquering during the 2 years after Gangrel was already dead. The timing of that doesn't work with when Gangrel was alive. Second, if that's trying to make him sympathetic, that don't work either. It might forgive him for trying to wage a war, but what made Gangrel a sack of shit was more than just what he did, it was the sadistic vulgarity to how he did what he did. A just reason for a war doesn't excuse the cruelties he did while fighting that war, so that support just doesn't work on any level in my opinion. Given that he already had a motive thanks to Crom's dad, it really feels like they brought Gangrel back without giving any thought to how or why to bring him back, and the whole thing just reeks for it. He also has a DLC conversation with Emmeren, wherein he starts to have a mental breakdown where he looks at his life and realizes how fucking terrible he is. I don't know, maybe this works for you, but I just can't get into it. I don't feel like Gangrel has done a damn thing to be worth giving a moment of clarity. A good villain redemption arc can happen. I mean, everyone wants to have their Zuko moment, but you need more than just a character feeling remorse for them to be redeemed. Their actions, first of all, have to be redeemable, and Gangrel's sadism and bloodlust are not something that can just be wiped away with a simple, oops. On top of that, he doesn't do anything other than cry and feel sorry for himself. You never see him actually being better. Remember, he ends up dead in a ditch a short while after the game's end. The whole thing just feels half-baked. It's trying to make the idea of Gangrel living work, but that idea is just so bad from the offset that they can't salvage it. I hate that almost half of this video is negative. I do this because I love the characters, and I do love Gangrel when he's in the main story of the game. It's the side content bringing him back that pisses me off. And sadly, that's an aspect of Gangrel's character I can't just ignore. So yeah, 50% of Gangrel, amazing villain, who steals the show during his limited screen time. And the other 50%, poorly handled redemption arc. Do I still like Gangrel at the end of the day? Yes. Is there always going to be a huge asterisk when I say I like Gangrel? Also, yes. I don't know what else to say, but that the whole thing just drives me mad. Which, I guess, is almost fitting for Gangrel. Thank you guys very much for making it to the end of another character analysis video. This is actually episode 60! And we're on our way to 100. Whoop whoop! As always, I would like to thank the Green Brigand for his support, looking over the script and making sure that I'm not a fucking idiot. I still am, but at least not when I'm writing these videos. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider joining the Discord server. People there seem to like it okay, I seem to like it okay, and you're looking at some stuff from it right now. We have a good time there, you know? We like to have fun. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, go to the Patreon, and look at this Buff Riku. I realized that I got through this entire video and I forgot to make a meme with Buff Riku in it, and I had to amend that at the very end. Until next time.
Change the world. My final message. Goodbye.